Scene 1. Introducing the world and Amara's painful past. In a world where the moon whispers secrets and strength is the measure of survival, there exists a society woven from ancient loyalties and primal power. Werewolves roam the forests, their packs bound by blood and tradition, while the Lian, a rarer, fiercer race of shifters, command respect and fear in equal measure. Theirs is a delicate dance of dominance, where bloodlines dictate worth, and those without a place are cast into shadow. For Amara, a woman branded a rogue, life has been a relentless struggle fought in the cold confines of an orphanage that offered no warmth, no hope, only the cruel label of defective. Amara's story begins in a moment of profound exhaustion, her body trembling from the ordeal of childbirth. She has just brought 2 sons into the world, tiny lives now nestled safely in the care of those around her. Their father Kieran is an alpha lion, a man whose presence fills the air with quiet authority and a scent of pine and musk that lingers like a promise. In the haze of her recovery, Amara feels something new, a stirring deep within a primal force that roared to life during her labor. Her wolf-long thought absent has awakened, shattering the shame of being called defective. More startling still is the bond that hums between her and Kieran, a mate bond sacred and unbreakable, tying their fates together in ways she never imagined. But freedom from one prison doesn't erase the scars of another. Amara's past is a tapestry of pain woven from years in an orphanage where she was worked to the bone. Her hands blistered from scrubbing floors, her spirit battered by the taunts of those who saw her lack of a wolf as proof of her worthlessness. She remembers the sting of matron's whip, the hunger that gnawed at her belly, the nights spent whispering with her only friend Elise, dreaming of a life beyond the stone walls. Those years taught her to hide her heart, to expect betrayal, to believe she was less than nothing. Even now, as she cradles her sons, those old doubts cling to her, whispering that she doesn't belong in Kieran's world of power and privilege. Why was the orphanage so cruel? It was more than one woman's malice. It was a reflection of a world that fears what it cannot control. Rogues, those without a pack, are seen as threats to the order their existence, a challenge to the hierarchies that keep the shifter realms in check. The orphanage was a tool to break them, to ensure they never rose, never questioned, never dreamed. Amara's survival was a quiet act of defiance, her bond with Elise a flicker of light in the darkness. Yet the weight of her past makes her question her place now as a mother, a mate, a woman whose wolf has only just begun to stir. This struggle is not unlike stories we know from our own world. Think of children in 19th century America, toiling in factories or orphanages, their lives reduced to labor, their dreams dismissed as folly. Or consider modern survivors of systemic neglect, those who fight to reclaim their dignity against a society that labels them unworthy. Amara's journey mirrors theirs, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, the refusal to be defined by cruelty. Her love for her sons, her tentative trust in Kieran are sparks of hope, but they burn against the shadow of a lifetime spent believing she was broken. Kieran, for his part, is a mystery she's only beginning to unravel. His golden eyes hold a fierce protectiveness. His touch, a gentleness that belies his strength. He has ensured her safety, surrounding her with care. Mara, a kind caretaker who tends to her needs. Elise, her friend who has stood by her through every trial. Declan, Kieran's loyal beta, whose quiet vigilance guards them all. But Amara senses the weight Kieran carries, the burdens of an alpha whose pack looks to him for strength, whose enemies circle like wolves in the night. She knows of the attempt to abduct her, a chilling act that haunts her dreams, though Kieran speaks of it only in guarded tones. The name Malik Ironclaw, a rival alpha, lingers unspoken, a threat that looms over their fragile peace. Amara's fingers often find the crescent moon pendant she's carried since childhood, its faint runes a link to a mother she barely remembers. It's her anchor, a reminder of love lost, but also a question mark, a hint that her past holds more than pain. Elise, with her fierce loyalty, urges her to look forward to embrace the life she's building with her sons and Kieran. "You're not that girl anymore." Elise says, her voice steady with belief, and Amara wants to believe her. But the whispers of her past, the fear of failing her children, the uncertainty of her role in Kieran's world, they all pull at her, testing her newfound strength. The Lila Kingdom, with its promises and perils, is a new chapter, but it's one Amara steps into with trembling feet. She's no longer the girl who cowered in the orphanage, but she's not yet the woman who can claim her place beside an alpha. Kieran's faith in her, the tiny heartbeats of her sons, the stirrings of her wolf, they're all threads in a story waiting to unfold. Beyond the walls of their sanctuary, a storm is brewing, one tied to the history of the Lien, the legacy of the rogues and the enemies who seek to tear them apart. What will it mean for Amara to uncover the truth of her past, to stand as Kieran's mate, to face a world that once cast her aside? The answers lie just ahead, in a history that holds the key to her pain and her power. Scene 2, History of the Lien and Origins of Rogue Prejudice. The world Amara now called home was vast and unfamiliar, its grandeur a stark contrast to the cold stone walls of her past. Yet even as she cradled her newborn sons, the weight of her history pressed against her heart. She was a rogue, a word that carried shame and scorn, a label that had defined her life long before she discovered her wolf or her bond with Kieran. But the chains of that word stretched back centuries, forged in a time of war and betrayal, when the shifter realms decided some were worthy and others were not. To understand Amara's place, one must first know the story of the Lien and the bitter roots of the prejudice that branded her kind outcasts. Long ago, before the packs as they are known today took shape, the shifter world was a tapestry of tribes, each vying for dominance under the watchful gaze of the moon. Among them were the Lien, a rare and powerful race whose wolves were larger, fiercer, their strength unmatched. They were revered, their bloodlines seen as a gift from the ancient spirits, but their scarcity made them both envied and feared. The Lion did not bow easily, their independence a quiet challenge to the werewolf alphas, who craved control. Some Lion joined packs, their blood mingling with werewolves, while others roamed free, unbound by the rigid hierarchies that defined pack life. These free spirits, the ancestors of the rogues, dreamed of a world where strength was measured by heart, not allegiance. But dreams can spark wars. The alphas, sensing a threat to their authority, rallied against the rogues, accusing them of rebellion, of seeking to upend the natural order. The conflict that followed was brutal, a clash of claws and ideals that left the land scarred. The alphas emerged victorious, their power cemented by a new decree. Rogues, those without a pack, were to be cast out, their lives deemed forfeit. The cruelest law declared that any rogue reaching adulthood faced execution, a punishment for sins they hadn't committed. Families were torn apart, their names erased, their children, like Amara's parents, left to bear the weight of a war they never fought. The Lien, caught in the crossfire, saw their free-roaming kin branded as rogues, their legacy buried under layers of fear and control. Why did this war leave such a lasting wound? Because the victors didn't just win, they reshaped truth itself. The alphas painted the rogues as traitors, their ideals of freedom twisted into tales of chaos. The Lien, once symbols of strength, became figures of caution, their power respected, but their independence distrusted. The laws ensured rogues remained broken, their spirits crushed in places like the orphanage, where Amara grew up, where she was called defective for lacking a wolf. That label, she now realized, was not just personal, it was a legacy, a chain forged in the ashes of a war she'd never known. Elise, Amara's dearest friend, was the one who first shared these stories. In the quiet moments when the twins slept, Elise would sit with Amara, her voice soft but steady, recounting tales she'd heard from her own family, tales of rogues who once stood tall of Lian, who roamed under starlit skies. Amara listened, her fingers tracing the crescent moon pendant that had been her mother's, its faint runes, a mystery that felt heavier with each word. Your wolf woke up for a reason. Elise said, her eyes bright with belief. Maybe it's tied to those stories, to something bigger. Amara wanted to believe her, but the weight of her past made hope feel fragile, like a flame flickering in the wind. This history of exclusion echoes struggles we know from our own world. Think of the immigrants who arrived on American shores labeled outsiders, their dreams met with suspicion, or the Native American tribes displaced by laws that branded them threats to progress. The rogue's story is like theirs, a reminder that fear can distort justice, turning the defeated into scapegoats. Amara's pain, her years of being called defective, was the product of a system designed to erase those who didn't conform. Yet her survival, her bond with Elise, her love for her sons, these were acts of defiance, proof that even the forgotten could hold fast to their light. Amara's pendant with its delicate runes was more than a keepsake. It was a question, a thread connecting her to a past she didn't understand. Elise's stories stirred something in her, a sense that her wolf, her lion blood, might hold answers to who she was, to why she'd been chosen as Kieran's mate. But the world beyond their sanctuary was not content to let her find those answers in peace. Kieran, with his guarded golden eyes, carried burdens she could only guess at, whispers of a rival, Alpha Malik Ironclaw, whose hatred for him burned bright, whose schemes threatened their fragile family. The history of the Lion and the Rogues wasn't just a tale of the past. It was a storm gathering on the horizon, one that would test Amara's strength and Kieran's resolve. What would it mean for Amara to uncover the truth of her heritage, to stand beside a king against a world that once broke her? The answers lay just ahead, in a man whose gaze held both danger and promise. Scene 3. The emergence of Kieran and the threat of Malik Ironclaw. The world Amara now inhabited was one of towering strength and hidden dangers, a place where the warmth of her newborn sons contrasted sharply with the shadows of her past. She was no longer the girl who cowered in the orphanage, branded defective, but the weight of that label still lingered even as her wolf stirred, and her bond with Kieran, the alpha lion, grew stronger. Kieran was a man whose presence filled any space, his golden eyes holding both a king's authority and a quiet tenderness that unsettled her. He was her mate, her protector, the father of her children. Yet he was also a mystery, a leader whose burdens cast long shadows and whose enemies were closer than Amara dared to imagine. Kieran's role in Amara's life was undeniable. He was the anchor in her storm, ensuring her safety with a vigilance that bordered on fierce. From the moment her wolf awakened during childbirth, he had been there, his touch steadying her trembling hands, his voice soothing her fears. He arranged for Mara to tend to her every need, for Elise to stay close, offering the comfort of friendship, and for Declan, his loyal beta, to guard their home with unwavering resolve. But beneath his calm exterior, Amara sensed a tension, a weight he carried alone. He spoke little of it, but his guarded glances and the way his shoulders stiffened when he thought she wasn't looking told her there was more to his world than he let on. That world was one of power and peril, where an alpha lion like Kieran ruled not just by strength, but by the trust of his pack. The Lion were revered, their wolves unmatched, but their rarity made them targets, their independence a challenge to the werewolf packs that craved control. Kieran's pack looked to him to maintain order, to protect their territory, to uphold the traditions that kept them strong. Yet his choice to claim Amara a rogue, a woman once thought human, had stirred whispers, not just within his pack, but beyond it. Those whispers carried the name of Malik Ironclaw, an alpha, whose hatred for Kieran burned like a wildfire, fueled by old grudges and a hunger for dominance. Why did Malik pose such a threat? The answer lay in a history of rivalry that Kieran only hinted at. Malik, leader of a neighbouring pack, had clashed with Kieran years before their conflict, rooted in a struggle for territory and pride. Malik saw Kieran's strength as a challenge, his Lian blood a symbol of everything his own pack lacked. When Amara entered Kieran's life carrying his heirs, Malik saw an opportunity, a way to strike at Kieran's heart by targeting the woman he'd claimed as mate. The attempt to abduct Amara, a chilling act that haunted her dreams, was Malik's doing a calculated move to weaken Kieran by sowing fear and doubt. Kieran's investigation had uncovered the truth, but he shared it sparingly, his voice tight with restraint, as if shielding Amara from the full weight of the danger. Amara, though, was no stranger to fear. Her years in the orphanage had taught her to read the unspoken, to sense the storm before it broke. She saw it in Kieran's eyes when he spoke of Malik, in the way Declan's hand rested on his sword when they discussed pack security. She felt it in her own heart, a knot of worry that tightened whenever she thought of her son so small and vulnerable in a world of claws and ambition. "Why me?" she asked Kieran one evening, her voice barely above a whisper. His answer was simple but heavy. "Because you're mine." The words thrilled her, but they also deepened her unease. Being his mate meant standing in the light of his power, but also in the crosshairs of his enemies. This clash of loyalty and danger is not unlike stories we know from our own world. Think of leaders like Abraham Lincoln, who faced threats not just to their power, but to their families, their resolve tested by those who sought to tear them down. Kieran's burden was like theirs, a duty to protect, to lead, even as personal fears gnawed at his heart. Amara's struggle, too, echoed those who've stepped into roles they never sought, like women thrust into public life, facing scrutiny for their origins. Her self-doubt, her fear of failing Kieran and her sons, was the natural response of someone learning to claim a place in a world that once rejected her. Yet Kieran's faith in her, his quiet acts of care, bringing her sons to her side, brushing a kiss across her temple, were sparks of hope kindling her courage. Kieran's pack was a complex web of loyalty and suspicion, its members watching Amara with curiosity and caution. Mara, with her gentle wisdom, saw her as a blessing, a woman who softened their alpha's edges. Elise, ever fierce, urged Amara to stand tall, to trust the wolf within her. Declan, stoic but steadfast, ensured no threat came near his loyalty to Kieran, extending to the woman who now shared his life. But beyond their sanctuary, Malik's shadow loomed larger. His schemes whispered in the halls of rival packs, his ambition a gathering storm. Amara felt the weight of it, her fingers often finding her crescent moon pendant. Its runes a reminder of a past that might hold answers or dangers she wasn't ready to face. The bond between Amara and Kieran was a fragile bridge built on instinct and necessity, but it was growing stronger with each shared glance, each quiet moment. Yet the world they lived in demanded more than love. It demanded strength, cunning, and sacrifice. Malik's threat was not just to Kieran's power, but to the family they were building, to the sons who carried their blood. Amara's place in that world as mate, as mother, as a woman with a wolf she barely understood, was a question she couldn't avoid. What would it mean to stand beside Kieran, to face a rival who saw her as a weakness, to claim a role she never sought? The answers lay just ahead, in a life that would test her heart and her courage. Scene 4, A New Life, Motherhood and the Pressure of Being Luna. The Lian Kingdom, with its promise of safety, was a world apart from the orphanage where Amara had spent her childhood, yet it was no less daunting. Her days were now filled with the soft coos of her twin sons, the warmth of Kieran's steady presence, and the stirrings of a wolf she was only beginning to understand. But even as she stepped into this new life, the weight of her past clung to her, whispering doubts about her place in a world of power and tradition. Motherhood had wrapped its tendrils around her heart, giving her a purpose fiercer than any she'd known. But the role of Lunar mate to an Alpha Leon leader to his pack loomed like a shadow, testing her courage and her sense of self. Amara's days revolved around her sons' two tiny lives, who filled her with wonder and worry in equal measure. One had her green eyes bright and curious, while the other's hazel gaze held a spark of Kieran's intensity. Their inky black hair, a mirror of their father's, was a constant reminder of the legacy they carried. She spent hours cradling them, marveling at their strength, laughing at their stubborn attempts to roll over far too soon. Elise, her closest friend, was a constant presence, her laughter lightening the weight of Amara's fears. Mara, the gentle caretaker, ensured she had food and rest her kind words a balm to Amara's frayed nerves. But even in these moments of joy, Amara couldn't shake the fear that she wasn't enough, not for her sons, not for Kieran, not for the pack that watched her with cautious eyes. Why was motherhood so overwhelming? It wasn't just the sleepless nights, or the constant demands of two infants. It was the knowledge that her sons were heirs to an alpha, their lives entwined with a world of danger and expectation. Amara had grown up with nothing her childhood, a blur of hunger and rejection, and the thought of failing her children cut deeper than any wound. She wanted to give them safety love, a life free from the cruelty she'd known, but the whispers of the pack made her doubt she could. Some saw her as an outsider, a rogue who'd somehow claimed their alpha's heart. Others whispered she was human, unfit to stand beside a Leon king. The word defective, once hurled at her in the orphanage, echoed in her mind, a taunt she couldn't fully silence. The role of Luna was a weight she hadn't asked for. Kieran's pack was a complex tapestry of loyalty and tradition, its members bound by a shared history she didn't know. To be Luna meant more than being Kieran's mate. It meant leading beside him, earning the respect of wolves, who valued strength above all. Amara felt the pressure in every sidelong glance, every murmured doubt. One warrior bold enough to speak openly questioned her place, his words sharp with skepticism. "How can a rogue lead us?" The sting of it lingered, but Mara's quiet wisdom offered solace. "Kieran was alone before you," she said, her voice soft with memory. "His mother died young. His father taught him strength meant solitude. You've changed him, Amara. Give the pack time to see what he sees." Kieran, for his part, was a steady presence, his faith in her unwavering. He spoke little of the pack's doubts, but his actions holding her close when she faltered, bringing their sons to her side, with a tenderness that melted her fears, spoke volumes. Yet Amara sensed the strain he carried, the shadow of Malik Ironclaw's threat looming ever closer. Declan, Kieran's beta, moved with a vigilance that betrayed the danger they faced, his reports of rival pack movements, delivered in hushed tones. Amara wanted to be strong for them all, but the weight of her new life, coupled with the exhaustion of motherhood, made her feel like she was balancing on a knife's edge. This struggle is not unlike stories we know from our own world. Think of single mothers in America juggling love for their children with the judgment of a society quick to label them inadequate, or women stepping into leadership roles in male-dominated fields, their every move scrutinized. Amara's journey was like theirs, a battle to prove her worth, not just to others, but to herself. Her love for her sons was a fire that burned bright, but her fear of failing them, of failing Kieran, was a shadow that followed her. The pack's doubts mirrored the orphanage's cruelty, but Kieran's belief, Elise's fierce support, Mara's gentle guidance, they were lifelines pulling her toward a strength she didn't yet fully trust. Elise, with her unyielding spirit, saw Amara's doubts and refused to let them take root. "You're their mother, their Luna," she said, her voice fierce with conviction. "That's not a title, it's who you are." Amara clung to those words, her fingers often finding the crescent moon pendant that had been her mother's, its runes a quiet reminder of a past she didn't understand. She wanted to believe she could be more than her fears. But the pack's whispers, the threat of Malik, the weight of her son's future, they all pressed against her, demanding she find the wolf within. Kieran's love was a steady flame, but it was her own courage she needed, to kindle a courage that would be tested in ways she couldn't yet imagine. The Lila Kingdom was a crucible, forging Amara into something new, but it was also a mirror reflecting her doubts and her potential. Her sons, with their bright eyes and stubborn hearts, were her reason to fight. Kieran, with his quiet strength and unspoken burdens, was her partner in a dance she was only learning. The pack, with its traditions and tensions, was her challenge, a world she had to claim. But to do that, she needed to master the wolf that had awakened within her, to understand the power that had lain dormant for so long. What would it mean for Amara to embrace her strength, to face the pack's doubts, to stand against the threats gathering beyond their walls? The answers lay just ahead, in a journey that would test her heart and her soul. Scene 5, Journey of Learning to Shift and Discovering the Wolf. The Lila Kingdom, with its ancient traditions and unspoken expectations, was a world that demanded strength, and Amara felt the weight of that demand with every breath. Her newborn sons, with their bright eyes and tiny hands, gave her a reason to rise each day, while Kieran's quiet faith anchored her in moments of doubt. But the wolf that had awakened within her during childbirth was a stranger, a primal force she barely understood. It was a gift, a sign she was no longer the defective rogue of her past, but it was also a challenge, a power she needed to master if she was to stand as Kieran's mate, protect her family, and claim her place in a pack that watched her with wary eyes. Her journey to harness this wolf was one of struggle, growth, and discovery, a path that would redefine who she was. Amara's first attempts to shift were faltering, her body still weak from childbirth, her mind clouded by years of believing she was less than whole. Kieran, with his steady presence, became her guide, his voice calm but firm as he urged her to reach for the wolf within. "It's not about forcing it," he said, his golden eyes holding hers. "It's about trust, trusting the part of you that's always been there." But trust was a fragile thing for Amara, broken by the cruelty of the orphanage, by the taunts that called her worthless. Each time she closed her eyes seeking the spark of her wolf, she felt only flickers, tingles along her arms, a fleeting sense of fur, before the connection slipped away, leaving her frustrated and ashamed. Declan, Kieran's beta, joined them in these sessions, his stoic demeanor softened by a quiet respect for Amara's determination. He shared stories of his own first shift, a clumsy affair that left him tangled in a thicket, hoping to ease her fears with a rare smile. Elise, ever her fiercest ally, watched from the sidelines, her encouragement sharp and unwavering. "You've survived worse than this, Amara. That wolf is yours. Call it out." But the failures piled up, each one a reminder of the pack's doubts, of the whispers that questioned her place as Luna. Amara's heart ached with the fear that she'd never be enough, that her sons would grow up with a mother who couldn't protect them, that Kieran's faith in her was misplaced. Why was shifting so difficult? It wasn't just a matter of will, it was a clash between Amara's past and her potential. The orphanage had taught her to hide, to shrink, to expect failure, and those lessons had buried her wolf deep, locking it away until the raw power of childbirth broke it free. Now she had to unlearn that fear, to embrace a strength she'd never been allowed to claim. Kieran saw this struggle, his guidance, growing more personal with each passing day. He shared a memory of his own youth, a time when he doubted his ability to lead, his father's harsh words echoing in his ears. "I found my wolf by letting go," he told her, his voice soft with vulnerability. "You'll find yours the same way." Amara's determination grew fueled by her love for her sons, and her need to prove herself not just to the pack, but to the woman she saw in the mirror. She meditated in the quiet hours, her fingers tracing the crescent moon pendant that had been her mother's, seeking the wolf's presence in the stillness. Slowly she felt it, a warmth in her chest, a pulse of power that answered her call. The breakthrough came during a grueling session with Kieran, and Declan, her body pushed to its limits, her mind stripped of doubt. She felt the surge a wildfire that spread through her veins, and in a moment of pure instinct she shifted. Her wolf was magnificent, its dark fur streaked with silver, its eyes glowing with a strength that silenced the pack's whispers. The air hummed with awe, Kieran's gaze filled with pride, Declan's nod, one of respect, Elise's cheer breaking the stillness. This journey of self-discovery is not unlike stories we know from our own world. Think of athletes like Serena Williams pushing through pain and doubt to claim their greatness, or students overcoming years of self-doubt to master a skill that once seemed impossible. Amara's struggle was like theirs, a battle to rewrite the story she'd been told about herself, to claim a power that had always been hers, but was buried under layers of fear. Her shift wasn't just a physical act. It was a declaration of worth, a step toward becoming the Luna her pack needed, the mother her sons deserved. Yet the power of her wolf, unmistakably, Leon raised questions she couldn't ignore. Why was it so strong, so different? Kieran's pride in Amara was tempered by a quiet unease, his thoughts turning to the crescent moon pendant and the secrets it might hold. Declan, ever vigilant, noted the pack's shifting mood. Some saw Amara's wolf as a sign of strength, others as a mystery to be feared. Elise, with her fierce loyalty, saw only her friend's triumph, urging her to embrace the wolf without hesitation. For Amara, the shift was a victory, but it was also a beginning, a door to a power she didn't fully understand. The pack's doubts, the threat of Malik Ironclaw, the future of her sons, they all loomed larger now, demanding she uncover the truth of her wolf, her heritage, her place in Kieran's world. The Leon Kingdom was a forge shaping Amara into something new, but it was also a puzzle, its pieces scattered in the shadows of history. Her sons with their stubborn hearts were her reason to keep going. Kieran, with his unspoken burdens, was her partner in a journey that grew more complex with each step. The pack, with its traditions and tensions, was her challenge, a world she had to claim. But to do that, she needed to understand the wolf that had roared to life within her, to unravel the mystery of why it carried the mark of the liane. What would it mean for Amara to discover the truth of her heritage, to face the dangers that awaited, to stand as Luna in a world on the brink of conflict? The answers lay just ahead in a past that held both promise and peril. Scene 6. The mystery of Amara's lion origins. The Lion Kingdom, with its ancient strength and whispered secrets, was a place where Amara was beginning to find her footing, her wolf's emergence, a beacon of hope after years of being called defective. Her sons filled her heart with purpose, Kieran's steady presence anchored her, and the pack's cautious acceptance gave her a glimpse of belonging. But the wolf that had roared to life within her was no ordinary beast. It bore the unmistakable mark of the liane, a race revered and feared its silver-streaked fur, a sign of a heritage she didn't understand. This discovery sparked a question that refused to be ignored. Where did her power come from? And what did it mean for the woman she was becoming? Amara's wolf was a revelation, but it was also a puzzle. Kieran, with his keen mind and quiet intensity, felt the weight of this mystery most deeply. His own lion blood defined his strength, yet Amara's transformation hinted at a connection to his kind that defied reason. She was a rogue, raised in an orphanage, her past a blur of pain and rejection. How could she carry the mark of a race so rare, so powerful? The crescent moon pendant she wore, a relic from her mother, became the key to unraveling this enigma. Its delicate runes, once a comforting mystery, now felt like a map to a truth she both craved and feared. Kieran and Declan, his loyal beta, took it upon themselves to investigate their search, leading them to the kingdom's ancient archives, where dust-laden scrolls held the stories of their people. They uncovered tales of a Leon clan, long thought vanished, who had lived among werewolves centuries ago, their blood mingling with those who would later be branded rogues. This clan, known for their fierce independence, had been betrayed during the Great War that exiled the rogues. Their survivors scattered their legacy, erased to quell the Alpha's fears. The pendant's runes match symbols tied to this clan, a revelation that struck Amara like a thunderbolt. Her parents, lost to the cruelty of that war, weren't just rogues. They were heirs to a lineage of power and defiance. Why had this truth been buried? The answer lay in the politics of fear. The Alphas who won the war saw the Lian bloodline as a threat, its strength a challenge to their control. By labeling the clan's descendants as rogues, they ensured their erasure, condemning their children to lives of servitude or death. Amara's parents had paid the ultimate price their secret kept, to protect her, leaving only the pendant as a whisper of their legacy. For Amara, the discovery was a storm of emotions, pride in her heritage, grief for the family she'd never known, and a daunting sense of responsibility. She was no longer just a mother or Kieran's mate. She was a lion, a living challenge to the laws that had broken her. Elise, ever her mirror and her strength, sat with Amara as she grappled with this truth, her voice steady with conviction. "This is why your wolf woke up," she said, her eyes bright with belief. "You're meant to carry this forward to show them who you are." But Amara wasn't so sure. The power in her blood felt like a weight, a legacy she wasn't ready to claim. Kieran, too, felt the shift, his protective instincts warring with a quiet awe at her potential. "You're not alone in this," he told her, his hand resting over her pendant, his touch grounding her. "We'll face it together." Declan, always watchful, saw the implications. Amara's heritage could strengthen their pack, but it could also draw the eyes of those who feared the lion's return. This search for identity resonates with stories we know from our own world. Think of Americans tracing their African roots, piecing together family histories lost to slavery, or those uncovering indigenous heritage long hidden by assimilation. Amara's journey was like theirs, a quest to reclaim a legacy stolen by others, to find pride in a past that shaped her present. Her discovery wasn't just personal, it was a spark that could ignite change, challenging the prejudices that branded rogues as less than worthy. But it also made her a target for those who clung to power, would see her as a threat just as they had her ancestors. Mara, with her gentle wisdom, saw Amara's struggle and offered quiet support, sharing stories of Kieran's mother, a Lian, whose strength had once united their pack. "She was fierce like you," Mara said, her smile soft with memory. Amara clung to those words, her fingers tracing the pendant's runes, feeling the weight of her lineage. She wanted to honor her parents, to protect her sons, to stand beside Kieran as his equal. But the path ahead was uncertain. The pack's whispers grew louder, some seeing her wolf as a sign of strength, others as a mystery to be feared. Beyond their borders, Malik Ironclaw's schemes loomed his ambition, a growing shadow that threatened everything Amara held dear. The Lion Kingdom was a tapestry of past and present, its threads pulling Amara toward a truth she couldn't avoid. Her sons, with their bright futures, were her reason to fight. Kieran, with his unspoken love, was her partner in a journey that grew more perilous. The pack, with its doubts and hopes, was her challenge, a world she had to claim. But to do that, she needed to face the pack's scrutiny, to prove her worth, not just as a Lian, but as Luna, to stand against the enemies gathering at their gates. What would it mean for Amara to embrace her heritage, to navigate the tensions within her pack, to face a rival who sought to destroy her family? The answers lay just ahead, in a conflict that would test her strength and her heart. Scene 7: Internal pack conflict and Malik's schemes. The Lion Kingdom, with its promise of strength and unity, was a place where Amara had begun to carve out a new life. Her wolf's emergence and Lion heritage, a beacon of hope after years of being branded defective. Her sons filled her days with love. Kieran's unwavering support steadied her, and the pack's cautious eyes watched her every move. But the truth of her origins, a legacy tied to a lost lion clan, had stirred more than pride. It had ignited tensions within the pack, whispers of doubt that grew louder with each passing day. Beyond their borders, Malik Ironclaw's ambition cast a darker shadow, his schemes weaving a web that threatened to unravel everything Amara and Kieran had built. The pack was a complex world, its loyalty to Kieran fierce, but not without fault lines. As Alpha, Kieran commanded respect, his lion blood, a symbol of their strength. But his choice to claim Amara a rogue, a woman once thought human, had sparked unease. The elders guardians of tradition called for a formal meeting to judge her worth, as Luna, their skepticism sharp and unyielding. Amara stood before them, her heart pounding her wolf a quiet presence she couldn't yet summon at will. Kieran's hand rested at her back, his golden eyes a shield against their scrutiny, but the elders' questions cut deep. Could a rogue lead them? Was her lion blood a gift or a danger? When Amara tried to shift to prove her strength, her wolf faltered, exhaustion and fear holding it back. The silence that followed was heavy, the elders' glances filled with doubt, though Kieran's fierce defense. "She is my mate, and that is enough," ended the meeting with a tense truce. Why were the elders so skeptical? It wasn't just prejudice, it was fear of the unknown. Amara's sudden emergence as a Lion, her lack of pack history, made her an enigma in a world that valued certainty. The pack had thrived under Kieran's rule, but change, especially one tied to a rogue, stirred memories of the war that had branded her kind outcasts. Some saw her as a threat to their traditions, others as a weakness that rivals could exploit. Amara felt the sting of their doubt, her old fears of being defective resurfacing, but she refused to shrink. Elise, her fiercest ally, saw her struggle and urged her to fight. "They don't know you yet, but they will. Show them what I see." Mara, with her gentle wisdom, offered quiet comfort, reminding her that even Kieran had faced doubt when he first took leadership. Kieran, for his part, bore the pack's tensions with a quiet resolve, but Amara sensed the strain in his tightened jaw the late nights he spent with Declan, poring over reports of rival pack movements. Declan's vigilance had uncovered a chilling truth. Malik Ironclaw, the Alpha, who had once tried to abduct Amara, was sowing discord, his spies, whispering lies to weaken Kieran's pack. Malik's plan was cunning, spread doubt about Amara's legitimacy, stir unrest among Kieran's allies, and pave the way for a challenge that would claim his territory. The discovery of a traitor within the pack, a warrior swayed by Malik's promises, sent a ripple of shock through their ranks. Kieran's response was swift, his authority unyielding, but the betrayal cut deep, a reminder that even loyalty could fracture under pressure. Amara's role in this growing storm was unexpected. When she overheard a hushed conversation between two pack members, their words laced with fear of Malik's influence, she chose to act, bringing the news to Kieran, despite her own doubts. "I'm not Luna yet," she told him, her voice trembling but firm, "but I won't let them tear us apart." Kieran's eyes softened with pride, his hand squeezing hers, a silent acknowledgement of her courage. Declan, ever stoic, nodded in approval, his trust in her growing. For Amara, the moment was a turning point. She was no longer just Kieran's mate or the mother of his heirs. She was a woman stepping into the fight, claiming her place in a world that doubted her. This clash of loyalty and betrayal mirrors stories we know from our own world. Think of political leaders like Hillary Clinton facing scrutiny, not just for their actions, but for their very identity or communities, torn by internal strife, like unions battling corruption within their ranks. Amara's struggle was like theirs, a fight to prove her worth, in a system resistant to change, to stand firm against those who sought to exploit doubt for power. Her courage, though born of fear, echoed the quiet strength of ordinary people who speak out against injustice, their voices shifting the tides of loyalty. The pack's tensions, Malik's schemes were a crucible, forging Amara into a leader she didn't yet fully see. Elise, with her unyielding spirit, saw Amara's potential and refused to let her falter. "You're more than they think," she said, her voice fierce with belief. Mara, Everwise, shared stories of past Luna's women who faced doubt and rose above it, her words a reminder that strength came from within. Kieran, with his unspoken burdens, leaned on Amara more each day, their bond deepening as they faced the pack's unrest together. But the traitor's betrayal, Malik's growing influence, and the elders' lingering doubts were a storm-gathering strength, one that would test them all. Amara's heritage, her wolf, her place as Luna, they were all pieces of a puzzle that would soon be laid bare in a gathering that would decide their fate. The Lian kingdom was a battleground, its tensions pulling Amara toward a role she couldn't avoid. Her sons, with their bright futures, were her reason to stand tall. Kieran, with his fierce love, was her partner in a fight that grew more perilous. The pack, with its hopes and fears, was her challenge, a world she had to win. But to do that, she needed to face the gathering of packs, to stand against Malik's challenge to prove her strength, not just to others, but to herself. What would it mean for Amara to claim her place as Luna, to face a rival who sought to destroy her family, to lead a pack on the brink of conflict? The answers lay just ahead, in a clash that would test her heart and her power. HTF1. Scene 8, Gathering of Packs and Malik's Challenge. The Lian kingdom, with its ancient strength and fragile unity, stood on the edge of a reckoning. Amara had faced the pack's doubts, her Lian heritage a spark that both inspired and unsettled those around her. Her sons gave her courage. Kieran's love steadied her, and her wolf, newly awakened, pulsed with a power she was only beginning to grasp. But the world beyond their borders was restless, its tensions converging in the gathering of packs, a sacred event where alphas met to forge alliances or settle scores. Malik Ironclaw, Kieran's rival, had issued a challenge that threatened everything Amara held dear, a battle not just for territory, but for her place at Kieran's side. This clash would test her heart, her strength, and the bond that tied her to her mate. The gathering of packs was a spectacle of power, a meeting where the shifter realms bared their claws and their ambitions. Packs from across the land converged, their alphas standing tall, their warriors watchful, the air thick with the scent of rivalry and pride. Kieran led his pack with unyielding resolve, his golden eyes scanning the crowd for signs of Malik's treachery. Amara stood beside him, her presence a quiet defiance against those who doubted her. Elise, fierce and loyal, stayed close, her gaze sharp with protectiveness. Declan, ever vigilant, moved through the ranks, ensuring their pack stood united. But Amara's heart pounded with unease, her fingers tracing the crescent moon pendant that had become her anchor. She was no longer the defective rogue of her past, but the weight of the pack's expectations and Malik's threat pressed against her. Malik's challenge was a calculated strike. As the moon rose high, he stepped forward, his voice dripping with scorn as he mocked Kieran's choice of mate. A defective rogue, he sneered, his words cutting through the crowd, unfit to stand beside an alpha lion. The insult ignited Amara's anger, but she held her silence. Her eyes meeting Kieran's, a silent promise to face this together. Malik demanded a dual alpha against alpha with Kieran's territory, and Amara as the prize. Kieran's response was a low growl, his wolf surging beneath the surface, his fury a tangible force that silenced the crowd. "You'll regret this," he said, his voice lethal, accepting the challenge with a resolve that sent a shiver through Amara's spine. Why was this duel so perilous? It wasn't just a test of strength, it was a clash of ideals, a battle for the soul of the pack. Malik's ambition was rooted in fear, his desire to humiliate Kieran, a bid to cement his own power. Kieran, by contrast, fought for his family, his pack, and the belief that Amara's strength was their future. The duel's rules were brutal: no weapons, no seconds a fight that could end in death. Amara's heart ached at the thought of losing Kieran, her sons, growing up without their father, but she knew he had no choice. The pack watched their loyalty tested, some swayed by Malik's lies, others standing firm behind their alpha. Amara felt the weight of their gaze, her role as Luna more crucial than ever. The battle was a storm of claws and fury. Kieran and Malik shifted their wolves, massive and fierce, tearing into each other with a ferocity that shook the earth. Kieran's black fur, streaked with silver, gleamed under the moonlight, his movements precise and powerful. Malik, a grey beast with a cruel glint in his eyes, fought with reckless desperation, his attacks wild but deadly. Blood stained the ground, Kieran's shoulder torn by a savage bite, and Amara's breath caught her hands clenched at her sides. The pack's murmurs grew louder, doubt creeping into their ranks as Malik gained the upper hand. Kieran stumbled a brutal strike to his ribs, sending him to the ground, Malik's jaws gaping for the kill. In that moment, Amara's world narrowed to a single truth: she could not lose him. Her wolf surged within her, a fire that answered her fear with power. Without thinking, she moved her body, acting before her mind could falter. Pain and instinct collided as she shifted, her wolf emerging in a blaze of dark fur, shot through with golden streaks. She lunged her teeth, sinking into Malik's flank, her strength fueled by love and defiance. The crowd gasped, Malik faltered, and Kieran seized the moment, rising to deliver a final crushing blow. Malik collapsed, his breathing ragged, his challenge broken. The pack erupted in howls, their doubts silenced by Amara's courage, Kieran's victory sealed by her strength. This clash of strength and sacrifice is not unlike stories we know from our own world. Think of historical duels, like those in colonial America, where honor and power were settled with blood, or modern activists risking everything to protect their communities, like Rosa Parks defying segregation with quiet courage. Amara's act was like theirs, a moment of defiance that shifted the balance, proving her worth, not just to the pack, but to herself. Her shift, born of love for Kieran, echoed the power of ordinary people who act in crisis, their courage rewriting the story of who they are. The duel wasn't just Kieran's victory. It was theirs, a testament to the bond that made them stronger together. Kieran, battered, but alive, turned to Amara, his eyes filled with awe and gratitude. Elise, her voice thick with pride, clasped Amara's hand, her smile fierce. Declan, stoic as ever, nodded in respect, his trust in her now unshakable. Mara, watching from the sidelines, saw in Amara the Luna she'd always believed in. But the victory came at a cost. Kieran's wounds were deep, the pack's unity fragile, and Malik's defeat only a temporary reprieve. Amara's shift had proven her strength, but it had also raised questions about her lion heritage, her role as Luna, and the bond that tied her to Kieran. The pack needed her now, not just as Kieran's mate, but as a leader who could heal their divisions and face the challenges ahead. The Lian kingdom stood at a crossroads, its future shaped by the courage of two souls who fought for each other. Amara's sons, with their bright futures, were her reason to stand tall. Kieran, with his fierce love, was her partner in a journey that grew more complex. The pack, with its hopes and fears, was her challenge, a world she had to lead. But to do that, she needed to embrace her role as Luna, to forge a bond with the pack, to deepen the love that had saved them all. What would it mean for Amara to claim her place, to heal a pack, divided to face a world still shadowed by Malik's ambition? The answers lay just ahead, in a love that would light their way. Scene 9, Fated Love and the Luna Ceremony. The Lian kingdom scarred by the recent clash with Malik. Ironclaw stood as a testament to the strength Amara and Kieran had forged together. Amara's courage in the gathering of packs, her wolf's fierce intervention to save Kieran, had silenced many of the pack's doubts, but it had also ignited a deeper truth. She was not just Kieran's mate, but a leader in her own right. Their bond, a primal force that had grown through trials and trust, was now a beacon for the pack, a promise of unity in a world fraught with tension. Yet, to claim her place as Luna Amara needed to face the pack's traditions, to embrace a love that defied her fears, and to step into a role that would shape their future. Kieran's love for Amara was undeniable, a quiet fire that burned in his golden eyes in the way he held her close after the battle. His wounds still fresh, but his heart unyielding. He had always known she was his mate, the bond snapping into place the moment her wolf awoke, but it was her courage, her defiance, that made him see her as his equal. In the quiet moments after their victory, he spoke of this bond, his voice soft but heavy with meaning. "You saved me," he said, his hand brushing hers, not just from Malik, but from a life alone. Amara's heart raced the weight of his words, stirring a warmth she'd never known, but also a fear she couldn't shake. Years in the orphanage had taught her she was unworthy, a defective rogue unfit for love, and the role of Luna felt like a mantle too heavy to bear. Amara's doubts were a storm within her, but Kieran's patience was her anchor. He didn't demand she accept the bond. He offered it, his actions, caring for their sons, sharing his burdens, speaking louder than words. Elise, her fiercest friend, saw her struggle and refused to let her falter. "You're not that girl anymore," she said, her voice sharp with belief. "You're his partner, and you're ours." Mara, with her gentle wisdom, shared stories of past Luna's women who faced doubt and rose above it, her words a reminder that leadership was earned through heart, not perfection. Declan, ever stoic, offered a rare nod of respect, his trust in Amara now unshakable after her stand against Malik. Their support was a lifeline, pulling her toward a truth she was only beginning to see she was enough. The ceremony to recognize Amara as Luna was a sacred rite, a moment for the pack to pledge their loyalty and for her to claim her place. Amara stood before them, her heart pounding the crescent moon pendant at her neck, a quiet reminder of her heritage. The pack watched, their eyes a mix of hope and caution, the elders' scrutiny softened, but still present. Kieran stood beside her, his presence a shield, but it was Amara's voice that filled the silence. She spoke of her journey from the orphanage's cruelty to the awakening of her wolf, from a rogue-branded defective to a Leon who fought for her family. "I'm not here to replace your traditions," she said, her voice steady, despite the tremor in her hands, "but to stand with you to build a future where strength is measured by heart." The pack's response was a chorus of howls, their acceptance, a wave that lifted her spirit. Why was this moment so pivotal? It wasn't just a title, it was a bridge connecting Amara's past to her future, her love for Kieran to her duty to the pack. The ceremony wasn't about erasing doubt, but about facing it, about proving that strength came from vulnerability as much as power. Amara's speech, born of her lived experience, was a declaration of intent to lead with compassion, to honor the pack's history while forging a new path. Kieran's pride in her was palpable, his hand finding hers as the pack pledged their loyalty, their bond now a symbol of hope for a kingdom healing from division. But the elders' cautious approval, the whispers of Malik's lingering influence, reminded Amara that her role as Luna would be a constant challenge. This struggle to lead and love is not unlike stories we know from our own world. Think of couples like Meghan Markle and Prince Harry navigating love against a backdrop of public scrutiny, or women leaders in corporate America proving their worth in rooms that doubt their place. Amara's journey was like theirs, a fight to claim her role, to balance love with duty, to overcome the fears that held her back. Her bond with Kieran wasn't just a fated connection, it was a partnership built on mutual respect and shared sacrifice. Her stand as Luna echoed the courage of those who lead through empathy, their strength a light in the face of judgment. Elise, with her unyielding spirit, celebrated Amara's triumph, her laughter a reminder of their shared journey. Mara, wise and warm, saw in Amara the Luna she'd always believed in, her stories of past leaders, now a guide for the future. Declan, torn between duty and loyalty, prepared the pack for the challenges ahead. His trust in Amara a quiet strength. Kieran, with his scars and his love, leaned on her more each day, their bond deepening as they faced the pack's uncertainties together. But the kingdom's peace was fragile. Malik's shadow still lurking, the pack's unity a work in progress. Amara's role as Luna was only beginning. She needed to lead her pack toward justice, to protect her sons, to build a legacy that would endure. The Leon Kingdom was a canvas, its future painted by the choices Amara and Kieran made together. Her sons, with their boundless potential, were her reason to dream. Kieran, with his fierce devotion, was her partner in a love that grew stronger with each trial. The pack, with its hopes and fears, was her responsibility, a world she had to shape. But to do that, she needed to lead with courage, to forge a path of justice, to ensure their victory over Malik was not the end, but a beginning. What would it mean for Amara to build a legacy, to protect her family, to lead a pack into a new era? The answers lay just ahead, in a future where love and justice would light their way. Scene 10 finale, Amara's legacy and the pledge for justice. The Leon Kingdom, once a place of doubt and division, now stood as a beacon of hope, shaped by the courage of Amara and Kieran. Amara had risen from the ashes of her past, a rogue once branded defective, to become Luna, a leader whose lion, wolf and fierce heart had united a pack on the brink of fracture. Kieran, her mate, had fought beside her, his strength matched only by his love. Their bond a testament to what trust and sacrifice could build. Their sons, with their bright eyes and stubborn spirits, were a promise of a future yet to unfold. Together, Amara and Kieran turned their gaze to a new mission, to forge a kingdom where justice was not a dream, but a reality, where no one would be cast aside as she once was. Amara's legacy began with a single act, her stand at the gathering of packs, her wolf's fierce intervention to save Kieran from Malik Ironclaw. That moment had silenced the pack's doubts, but it was her leadership in the days that followed that cemented her place. She spoke to the pack with a voice born of experience, calling for reforms to protect rogues, to ensure no child would know the cruelty of an orphanage as she had. Her words carried the weight of her journey, from a girl who believed she was nothing to a woman who led with compassion. The pack listened, their howls, a pledge of loyalty, their trust in her, a foundation for change. Kieran stood beside her, his pride palpable, his own vision for the pack now intertwined with hers, a kingdom where strength was measured by heart, not bloodline. Elise, Amara's fiercest friend, found her own place in this new era, her loyalty earning her a role as advisor, her sharp mind guiding the pack's efforts to heal. She led initiatives to train rogue-born warriors, giving them a chance to rise, as she had stood by Amara. Mara, with her gentle wisdom, became a mentor to the young, her stories of past Lunas, a bridge to the future. Declan, Kieran's steadfast beta, took command of the pack's defences, his trust in Amara, now a quiet strength that fortified their borders. The twins, still too young to understand their legacy, showed early signs of their Leon blood, their fearless giggles, their uncanny strength, a hint of the power they would one day wield. Amara watched them with a mix of awe and resolve, determined to give them a world free from the shadows of her past. Why was this legacy so vital? Because it wasn't just about Amara or her family. It was about rewriting the story of a kingdom of a people bound by fear and tradition. Amara's reforms challenged the laws that had branded rogues as outcasts, echoing the Leon clan's ancient ideals of freedom and unity. Her leadership was a promise that strength could come from compassion, that justice could heal old wounds. Kieran, once a solitary alpha, now shared his burdens, his love for Amara grounding him in ways he'd never known. Together they pledged to build a pack, where every voice mattered, where their sons could grow up, knowing their worth was not tied to their blood, but to their hearts. This vision of change mirrors stories we know from our own world. Think of leaders like Eleanor Roosevelt, who championed human rights from a place of empathy, her voice reshaping a nation's conscience, or community organizers who empower the marginalized, like those in the civil rights movement building hope from the ground up. Amara's journey was like theirs, a testament to the power of one person to spark change, to lead not by force, but by truth. Her love for Kieran, her sons and her pack was a fire that burned bright, illuminating a path for others to follow. Her legacy wasn't just personal, it was a call to action, a challenge to build a world where no one was left behind. The kingdom wasn't without its challenges. Malik's defeat had weakened his pack, but whispers of dissent lingered rival alphas, watching for signs of weakness. The elders, though now supportive, remained cautious, their traditions a weight that slowed reform. Kieran, with Declan's steady counsel, knew the work ahead was long, but he faced it with Amara by his side, their bond a source of strength that steadied them both. Amara, once plagued by doubt, now saw her place clearly. She was Luna, not just in title, but in spirit, a leader who carried her past as a badge of resilience. Her sons, with their Leanne's spark, were her hope, a reminder that the future was theirs to shape. Elisa's laughter, once rare, now filled the training grounds, a sign of a pack finding joy in its renewal. Mara's stories, woven with wisdom, inspired the young to dream beyond their fears. Declan's vigilance, tempered by trust, ensured their safety, his loyalty a cornerstone of their strength. Kieran, changed by Amara's love, led with a heart open to his pack, his scars a testament to what he'd fought for. Amara's pendant, its crescent moon, runes a link to her lion heritage, was no longer a mystery, but a symbol of her journey. A journey that had shown even the forgotten could rise, that love could forge a new path, that justice was a flame that could burn bright. And so the story of Amara and Kieran reached its crest, not as an end, but as a beginning. The Lion Kingdom stood on the threshold of a new era, one shaped by courage, love, and a refusal to let fear define the future. Their journey had proven that strength came from unity, that a single voice could echo across a pack, that love could be a force for change. As they looked to the horizon, the challenges ahead were many, but so were the possibilities, a world where every rogue could find their place, where justice was not a word, but a way of life. Their legacy was a light guiding those who dared to dream of a better tomorrow.